The month of April was a very, very peculiar month because did some things I didn't usually do with my reading plan. So let's go ahead and take a look back. Hey, what's up, bookworms? Mike back with another monthly wrap-up for the month of April of 2024. We're going to be picking that book of the month, among other things. A very, very interesting month because if you don't know, you haven't been hanging around very much. I was in a bit of a reading slump, and I needed to get out of it, so I did change up the schedule that I had planned and just kind of went with that whole mood reading thing you guys always talk about. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. We're going to kind of talk about that. We're going to dip into it first, guys, by talking about what I read in the month of April. Now, I read 4.5 novels. If you guys will remember, I was in the middle of Priest of Lies by ℓ𝕤𝕤𝕤 at the beginning of the month. Well, I did finish up that half, but while I'm talking about that, I'm going to just repeat what I just said last month. It was more of the same. Priest of Bones, which was a good thing. That's great. I love Priest of Bones. It was my book of the month. So the fact that Priest of Lies was just a great follow-up to that, everything I could have hoped for and more. Now, I also read Priest of Gallows by ℓ𝕤𝕤𝕤, which is book number 3 in the War for the Rose Throne. That's a little bit more of a mixed bag, I guess I'd say. Now, look, I appreciated that he didn't just keep doing the same thing every book. This one, you actually do leave and go to different areas, and you kind of stay in that area. You kind of went there a little bit in book 2. This one, you kind of stay there for the majority of this book and kind of get the political angle. The things I didn't really care for about it is there are some parts where it just starts kind of transitioning to like this crazy secret society murder cult, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or something, with like Brother Mercy and Sister Death and things like that. It got a little bit like, I don't feel like I'm reading the same series, but it still stayed really good outside of that. I wasn't really crazy about that, but everything else was really good. And I feel like the tension has completely built up to the point to where book 4, okay, this is going to be that actual war for the Rose Throne that the title does dictate to happen. So a mixed bag, I think, a bit on book 3, but still it's like a 3.5, I'd say, out of 5. I still really enjoyed it. It's just those first 2 books I liked a lot better. And I'll be interested to see where Priest of Crowns does head next month. Snowbound by Blake Crouch. Whenever I am in a reading slump, Blake Crouch seems to be the guy that's able to get me out of it every single time because his books are just so damn fast-paced, and they got a hook usually in chapter 1 that just grabs you and it doesn't let go for the whole book. No different. Now, what I did say with this one is reading his biography kind of backwards has been kind of one of those things where, yeah, you can see that he's become a much better writer over time, and this wasn't bad. It's just saying you can look at it and say, yeah, okay, Recursion, Dark Matter, he's a much better writer than this now. So I felt like the ideas were there, the execution might not have been up to what you would expect with Blake Crouch, but I do feel like you're not going to feel like you wasted your time on the quick 200-page read that it is. It is very exciting. Does keep you guessing. It is very, very brutal. And I do think that's one thing that going backwards like this, you've seen is that Blake Crouch started off a lot more vicious than he is now. Not that he's nice to his characters now, but he was downright not scared to write really, truly evil characters back then. And so I think if you are an experienced, a Crouch potato, you've read a lot of his stuff, I think you can go back and enjoy it. Definitely not one I'd want to recommend that you start with because I don't know how much more of his stuff you'd want to pick up. So I always say start with Dark Matter and kind of work your way around. Dark Matter, Wayward Pines, Recursion, I think those are always the places that you should start. But I do think that Snowbound is definitely worth your time, and I did enjoy it for the most part. Streets of Laredo, Larry McMurtry. This was like unreal expectations because, this is the sequel to one of my favorite books of all time, and Lonesome Dove. And I gotta say, gotta just tip my hat to Larry McMurtry because he just pulls off the impossible with some of the things that he's able to do. And I just don't think there's anybody out there, even maybe Stephen King, that writes characters just damn good. They're just so personable, and I do love it. I enjoyed my time, as grim as it is, I enjoyed my time on that trail again with some of those characters. And then a reread, Dreamcatcher by Stephen King. This is one that I hadn't revisited since release day. This is one that I did pick up and read on release day, hadn't read since. It's one of those things where I was like, I don't know why so many people always have this as like one of the worst Stephen King books. And I wondered if it was nostalgia because at the time, it was right after his accident. And at the time, we weren't sure we were going to get another Stephen King story again, so we got this. I just got it. I ate it up. Now, here's the thing. It's like, same shit, different day. That's something that I took from that book back then, and I still use in my life, 25 years later. So obviously, it left some kind of impression on me. So I think rereading it now, I can see why people dislike it. I definitely say I would rather read this again than read Tommyknockers. But it's one of those things like, I can definitely see why people don't like it. I think that the first third of the book is just awesome. It's Pete King. It's everything I love. You know, it's got that backstory with the coming of age stuff. It's got these damaged adult characters, kind of, that have been lifelong friends, and they're kind of looking back at, you know, their childhood and a childhood friend and some crazy things that might have happened. Something maybe a little Southern Gothic, a little supernatural might have happened in this time period. It's just things that are fun to look back on, and it's got some really, really legitimately scary stuff. And then the second half just kind of turns into like Independence Day. And it's kind of wild. It really is. So I definitely can see why so many people do not like it. But I definitely think that people are a lot harder on it than it should be. But that relatively normal month, I guess you say, 4.5-ish novels. And a couple of those are really small. Because I don't think those Priest of Gallows and Snowbound were necessarily big books. Dreamcatcher is pretty meaty, and Streets of Laredo isn't exactly what I call small. And that leads me, guys, to my book of the month. As you know, I do not count rereads. But I do not think that Dreamcatcher would have been the cream of the crop, rising to the top with this group as well, guys. If you've watched the channel at all, I don't feel like this is going to be very much of a secret here. It is Streets of Laredo by Larry McMurtry. Because like I said, sequel to one of the greatest books of all time. How often does that ever just succeed? It doesn't really happen very much at all, right? And the fact that he's able to do that and make me enjoy this book, not as much as Lonesome Dove, but damn close, where I was really just immediately right back into that time period, got right back with those characters, and just spending time with those characters is what makes these books so special. It's because there are large sections of the book where you're like, you know, not else happened in the last 200 pages, and I'm thrilled. I'm having such a great time. It's amazing to use the words, I'm having such a great time, because awful shit happens in this book. Like awful stuff. I think it's more grim than Lonesome Dove is. It really is. And again, what I always say is, what was the hardest thing about staying alive in America at that time? Or the hardest thing about living in America at that time was staying alive. And history is the most grimdark thing you're going to find, and especially when you're doing with westward expansion in America. And obviously with bounty hunters and things like that, lawlessness all over the place. So in this one, Call is actually taking some bounties to go get this kid, Joey Garza, who's just kind of become like a little bit of a serial killer. And he's a little crazy. And that's the thing, is like Joey and Mox in this book, they make Blue Duck from Lonesome Dove seem like a cuddly teddy bear. They are both just evil incarnate. They really are. And I think he writes them in a way that they can come off maybe as mustache twirly bad guys, but you're there for it. And you want to see this confrontation happen that they're building up to through the whole book. But it isn't just about Woodrow in this. I mean, we got so many things. You go, Lorena's got an expanded part. P.I.'s got a much bigger part this go around. And just some of the new characters show up. Brookshire. I mean, I loved a lot of these new characters, but there are parts where I really was. If I was wearing pearls, I would have been clutching them, because I could not believe he was going as far as he did. But wizard. Larry McMurtry is just a wizard. There's zero doubt in my mind I'm going to be reading the 2 prequels now as well. And Larry McMurtry is going to be one of my favorite authors ever. It's because I can see now it wasn't a one-hit wonder. You know, it's one of those things where I always worry with something like this. The first book was a real big hit. Let me try to sponge off that for the rest of my career. That's not the case here. This one stands right up there with Lonesome Dove as a really great book and a very impressive sequel when you had unreal expectations and you're able to actually, I don't say exceed those, but at least meet them, and he does at least meet them with this. And I would call Lonesome Dove a 5-star book. I put this at like a 4.5. That's how much I did enjoy it. So a very good follow-up to an already amazing story, and heartbreaking, no doubt. But again, the fact that he's able to just let you spend time with these characters. There's a part where Call is just like sharpening things. He's just sharpening things for 20 pages, and I was there for it. It's amazing. The guy's amazing. He really is. So, guys, if you read Lonesome Dove and you liked it, I definitely think this is worth picking up. If you haven't read Lonesome Dove, what are you even doing? So read Lonesome Dove so you can read this and let me know what you guys think. That is my book of the month for April of 2024. Something tells me that one might be on the list at the end of the year as well, because it is one of the best that I have read so far in 2024. And I'm just so pleasantly surprised. And it's like, I expected to like it. I didn't expect to love it. I really didn't. So that's the kind of surprise I'll take every single time. How about some channel growth for April? I'm not going to lie to you guys. Pretty gross month. Pretty gross. I always tell you guys, you want to get at least 2 out of 3 green arrows. I got 3 red arrows. And again, I think March was a very successful month. And this one, maybe not so much. So we'll just briefly get into it. 2,230 new subscribers. That is down 514 from March. 455,000 views. That's down 74,000 from March, and 61,000 hours watched. That is also down 4,000 from the month of March. So yeah, 3 red arrows, never what you want to see as a content creator. But at this point, guys, we just roll with the punches and we just kind of take it as it goes and hope that things do turn around, and I suspect that they will. Peaks and valleys, guys. What I tell everybody, peaks and valleys. That's what this whole YouTubing thing is all about. Let's take a look at some of my most popular content for the month of April. I did 14 standard videos. I did 3 short form / recycled / excerpts, and I did 2 live streams. Now, one of those short forms is actually a book trailer for Shogun, and book trailers, I love them. I want to keep using them. The live stream, it was it's my 5-year anniversary that I crossed on the channel, so I just kind of wanted to hop on real quick and talk for like an hour and a half. So that was fun. Then I had to talk about nothing with Brian from BellTube last night. And then just my regular video output. The way I always try to look at it is I want to get about standard videos. I want to get about at least half of the number of days in the month. So 30 days in a month, I got 14. I was close. I was close. But the 2 live streams, I feel like they put me over it. But those top 5 videos for the month, according to you guys, no big surprise here. My top 10 fantasy series of all time as of 2024 that has 54,000 views as of this recording. It's always a very popular video. I try to only do it if I feel like there is a change, and there was a big change in this one. You look at the one I did 2 years ago, and a lot of big changes. A lot of things moved around. Some new things kind of moved in, some old things moved out, and I had a new number 1. That was always fun. So I did not have a three-peat. There was a new heavyweight champion in that regard, and that's always just a lot of fun to talk about. Sure, you get a lot of people in the comments that are mad you don't put series on there that you've never read before. That's just the internet. You're going to expect that a little bit. And I know a lot of people probably were quite triggered over my number 1 pick, but hey, that's why I call it my top 10. I want to encourage you to drop in the comments some of your top 10 picks. Why are YouTubers quitting? This one had 20,000 views as of this recording, and always a full credit to Library of a Viking. This was kind of his topic that I piggybacked off of, so I want to make sure that I give him credit, because I really don't want to jack anyone's content. It was just something that he brought up, and I said I feel like I could put a good spin on that and tell you what I think the deal is about why so many YouTubers and booktubers are quitting, and just kind of give my advice and talk about how I've kept doing it consistently for 5 years. And in the end, guys, there's just no silver bullet. You got to work hard. I mean, big surprise there. But it isn't always just that, working hard doesn't always equal success, but I will say you're not going to get success without working hard. But with BookTube and YouTube in general, it's just there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't realize how much work it is. They don't realize how negative it can get sometimes. For me, I've had a really positive experience for the most part doing YouTube, and I would just be amiss without this community that I have actually helped to build here, and I'm so grateful for that. So I kind of want to give my experience on both sides of it. Why you should read The Faithful and the Fallen. That was at 13,000 views as of the recording. I love The Faithful and the Fallen. It's one of the earliest series that I tackled when I started this channel. Got a lot of people on that bandwagon, and John Gwynn's just gotten better and better. And I think that John Gwynn, it feels like he hasn't had a bad book yet. Everything I've read by him, and we're going to be getting the end of Bloodsworn here pretty soon. But I wanted to shine a light on Faithful and the Fallen because that's my favorite. Look, I really like Blood and Bone. I really like Bloodsworn, but I loved The Faithful and the Fallen. I love that crew so much. I said I'm trying to stop all these rereads, but I know I will reread Faithful and the Fallen one day because it's just such an incredible series. So if anyone that is a constant watcher of this channel hasn't read Faithful and the Fallen yet, I want to make sure that I gave you an idea of what that series is about and why I think you'll dig it. Now, not everyone agrees with me. There's been some people in the comments like, I just didn't see out of it what you saw. That's going to happen, guys. No one series is for everyone. But I think if you like a little bit of traditional fantasies, like say you got like Brandon Sanderson here, you got like Joe Abercrombie here, you're looking for something like right here, adult but not quite, NC-17, I feel like you'll be happy. You don't have all the bad language, you don't have all the sexual content, you got some violence, and it's a little more adult than like a Brandon Sanderson book. I think that'll be the perfect comfort spot for you if you're really looking to get into adult epic fantasy. I think Faith of Fallen would be a great great gateway for you, and I was happy to do that. And I want to thank, obviously, John and Ed and Will for helping get me the art that I got to use at the beginning of that for that reading excerpt. It really did help make everything much more clean. My May reading plans, my TBR videos don't usually do that well. This one has 10,000 views, and the fact is I only released it last week. The only reason I think it's that heavy, guys, is because I have a Terry Pratchett book in my hand on the cover. Because, yes, I am starting Discworld. I'm actually reading Discworld right now, and now I'm just getting yelled at because apparently I picked the wrong book to start with. You know, that book one, how dare you start with book one, sir? But I tell the fans, dude, don't stress. I've got 5 of them. I'm going to read at least those 5. You know, I'm not going to judge everything off of Color of Magic, okay? So anyhow, I'm holding a Terry Pratchett book on the cover and on the thumbnail for that, and I think that's why a lot of people that are big Discworld fans, because that fandom is humongous, guys. It really is. And they were very excited. They've been asked to do Discworld since I started this channel. And now that I'm doing it, like I said, I'm doing it the wrong order. But hey, at least I am doing it. So I think they got a lot of people excited when they saw Terry Pratchett on that thumbnail. And then the book haul, that's always a pretty popular one, 10,000 views. That's a video that, again, you know why the book hauls are popular. Everybody seems to love them because, you know, you get to see what new books, you know, that you can get, that see what they look like, see how they fit on the shelf, see if the spines match, all those fun things. But for me, I like doing those, first, to say thank you to people who send me stuff. Second, to be able to prop up some independent authors that maybe I can't read their stuff. At least I can give them a little bit of exposure. And then lastly, just because it creates conversation, because I get sent stuff I never read before, and someone will drop in the comments telling me about how great that series is, and it gets me excited, you know, and it actually helps me for when I plan my permanent ink video at the end of the year. So book hauls, they'll always be an oldie but a goodie, and I do enjoy doing them because I love to tell you guys thank you for what you do. Send me a couple of my favorites that didn't make it. Like my actual single book reviews continue to struggle mightily. I did reviews both for Thinner, New Into the Multiverse for Thinner by Stephen King as Richard Bachman, and Shogun, my review of the book Shogun. And, you know, that didn't really get very much attention, but I want to keep doing book reviews. I know everybody always worries I'm saying I'm going to quit doing book reviews. I'm going to keep doing them. I mean, I have book reviews in the title of the channel. I'm going to keep doing book reviews. I'm going to keep doing my reading excerpts and recycling those book trailers for later. Man, I just wish I could get people excited about them because I feel like that's what got people to come to the channel in the first place. You know, it's really weird. It's really weird. Just people just don't seem to be into them anymore. But you know what? Those that are, I'm going to keep doing them for you. So I'm glad that you guys are here. You keep me sane. How about some goals for the month of May? Look, I want to get my reading habits back into full swing here. You know, the whole point of shaking it up in April, you know, with a Western, with a thriller, with some batshit sci-fi alien stories, you know. So before I got back into the fantasy and the sci-fi, I felt like that was something that I needed to do to kind of shake me loose. Now, looking back on it, I think it as much burnout as it was just a hangover. It was a book hangover from Shogun, which that's not a bad thing, because when a book's just such an incredible journey, sometimes there is a hangover. It's not a negative thing. It just happens sometimes. And I think I did have a bit of a hangover from that, so I needed to get away and get to something a little more fast-paced. And, you know, not that I call Streets of Laredo fast-paced, but Blake Crouch, that was very, very fast-paced. And I think that did help me quite a bit. So, again, got to thank my guy Blake for helping me. He's forever a Crouch potato because he just helps me in that way. I got quite an ambitious TBR for the month of May. I probably won't get to that Quill-Illuminati. I told Brian last night, it's a hard word to say. That reading club book that we and Brian and Philip and John over at Talking Story are going to do together. Probably won't get to it in the month of May. We have it planned to do in June. It's just, if I finish everything, I'll be starting that, but it'll be the first book I start in June, most likely. But the other things I've got in there, I got some thick stuff. Anytime I got a Sun Eater book, guys, I usually schedule about 3 weeks to read that, and that's most of the month. You know, so a Sun Eater book can take a little while, but, you know, I am already started on the Discworld book, and I'm going to finish up the War for the Rose Throne, and those both look like I guess the Pratchett book's really small, and the Rose Throne books read really, really quick. So I figure I should be able to get through most of it. We'll see. We will see what happens. No stress. Just continue to be open to new genres and series. Something that I'm doing this year is I'm not planning my TBR at all until I get to the next month. Really, when I sit down to make that video, that's when I'm planning it, and so it's scary, but it's also very cool because it has given me some freedom to do things like when Brian says, "Hey, do you want to join this book club?" I don't have to say I can't. I've already planned like 6 things next month. It's really cool to have that reading freedom. So I'm trying, guys. I'm trying. It's very much a work in progress, and I just kind of want to make sure I kind of keep things on track here because we are taking our family vacation the first week of June, and I like to work a little ahead on the channel, obviously, with things like that. So just make sure I keep up on my schedule and keep up on my recording spaces and things like that and get everything kind of up to snuff before I do take off, because we're going to see Honduras this year. I've never been to Honduras before. That's going to be quite an extravagant trip, and I can't wait to do it. We'll talk more about that when it gets closer, but that's really all I got planned for May, and that, guys, overall is the month of April. I would love to know what you guys read in April. What was your book of the month? What was your favorite video that I made in the month of April? I'd love to hear about it. So drop in the comments, guys, and let me know, and I will talk to you there.